Parliament is set to vote tonight on the DA's motion calling for an ad hoc committee to probe events around the burglary of dollars from President Ramaphosa's Palapala farm. But the ANC, with the majority, has already rejected that motion. It says it will interfere with the work of an independent panel established to determine if there is a prima facie case against the president. Now, in other political news this week, the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal endorsed former Health Minister Zweli Mkhize for president, Paul Mashatile for deputy, in something of a snub to the former President Jacob Zuma. In a statement issued shortly before midnight on Monday, Zuma pleaded with ANC structures to get behind Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma's campaign for president, and he threw his hat into the ring for the position of national chairperson of the party. To discuss, we're joined by political analyst in studio, Ongama Mtimka. Great to have you with us, as always, Ongama. So, the former president is known to be quite politically astute. Was this a misstep, though, saying, please throw your weight behind Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, while KZN was throwing its weight behind Zweli Mkhize?
Quite interesting. So I think this is more about the tactics of Duma and his executive than it does reflect on Jacob Zuma, where I've been watching the steps that they've taken since coming into power in the from the conference. The first thing that Duma did was to change the mood of the conference towards the speech of President Cyril Ramaphosa, notwithstanding the fact that they had, him and his faction were riding on the Wenzenu Zuma, narrative leading up to their appointment. Once they did that, they went to see President Mbeki to kind of normalize that it's normal to see former presidents, and then went to Zuma. Interestingly, when the news came out that Zuma had implored them to support Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, they were careful not to reject it outright, but to emphasize party procedure. Now, I sense that it's part of the political gambits they have made to try and redefine the politics of the KZN beyond Jacob Zuma.
Yeah. But
how they have gone about doing it, it's been to affirm Zuma enough, but to also show that they are an autonomous political actor going forward who are not going to be played or going to dance into the tune of backward-looking politics and not actually foster a way forward that is self-determined by them.
I'm trying to find it, but you're right in saying they're redefining our understanding of these two factions within the ANC. Am I correct? And there is one top official that they are supporting that is always seen to be in Cyril Ramaphosa's camp. So
yeah.
Does it seem mixed?
Yeah, absolutely. So especially given how they came to prominence in the province, people thought that had to do with mainly Jacob Zuma's or their favorable attitude towards Zuma.
Yes.
And they haven't. They are now saying, let's back a different a jockey. But more than that, they have sought, in my view, to carve a new path for KZN politics, away from the sometimes what has been reduced to be tribalism, to show a degree of political astuteness and, in fact, wanting to be judged on the basis of their political strategy and choice.
This is so interesting. So given the strength of KwaZulu-Natal as a bloc heading towards the elective conference in December, does this mean Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma is out of the race? And where is Ace Magashule, who months ago was the touted possible presidential contender? Of course, his legal issues play a part there, but his name not coming up.
Sure. What's disappointing about Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma's campaign this time around is that it was non-existent until Zuma spoke about it. That doesn't do any justice to the feminist critique of that narrative that we had seen her in relation to her former husband.
You mean she wasn't standing on her own 2
No,
feet?
absolutely not. She started finding her voice around issues of the campaign only once he started speaking. That, at least as far as the public account of what has been happening. So to me, that was disappointing, and it was always going to be a non-starter, her campaign. Ace Magashule, I think, has been neutralized completely by the step-aside resolution, and in fact by the reluctance of the so-called RET faction, or former RET faction, to actually back any of these candidates that have been running, and raising their hands to be the chosen ones.
Is there still you say so-called, because of course it's more nuanced. We can't just say there's this RET faction. But is there something like that still in the ANC? And if it's not backing Nkosazana Dlamini, is Zweli Mkhize the candidate for RET, or is that way too simplistic for what we're seeing now?
It seems to be, if judged on the basis of the preference of KZN. And in
Stanley
fact,
Matabata was the person that they are supporting, that I said is seen in Ramaphosa's camp.
Yes, it seems like KZN is on an anyone but Ramaphosa kind of ticket. So Paul Mashatile for deputy, among others. So my sense is that they are trying to the RET is problematized, as it were. There's no coherence around choice of candidate. As such, it has no national footing per se.
Yes.
However, we must always bear in mind that there is still the mass-based process. And there's also the Kgalema process, the electoral committee process. They've done away with the idea now that one's candidature is secured simply by being nominated. They may come and say, well, according to the rules, certain names do not qualify to be considered duly nominated.
Yeah. And Kgalema Motlanthe said nobody should be pronouncing on nominations now, but he's being ignored. We're running out of time. The DA motion is likely to be shot down. We're waiting for the vote tonight. The inquiry, it said there should be an inquiry into the Palapala farm scandal in accordance with Section 89. What was the DA trying to achieve there? We've already looked at state security, there's been a little committee, and there's this 3-person panel which is heading towards that impeachment process, possibly.
Sure. There was a sense in which some of the opposition parties felt the inquiry was a deflection and a delay tactic and was not done in good faith. I think that there's benefit to the inquiry in the sense that if you've had an independent panel at least establish matters of fact, then Parliament is almost locked on its path in terms of there can only be one outcome, that the president gets impeached. However, if the party political process takes place, the inevitable outcome is that it's going to be defended, even if that motion, had been allowed to play out. The majority vote of the ANC is just going to trump the motion because of the fact that there hasn't been a process of establishing what is true. So it's still a matter of political opinions. If we were in a situation where any of these agencies had released a report on which Parliament could act, then you could say that Parliament is actually abdicating its responsibility. However, in a context where some people feel that you need to navigate the maze of allegations to arrive at some established truth around Palapala, then it becomes a not as strong a point as it happens if there was already an a report. By the way, Parliament is within its rights that if the independent inquiry process has still not yet reached a conclusion and the public protector has releases a report to actually have the same motion brought before Parliament.
Okay, so then it can still investigate while the three-person panel is looking into the prima facie case against the president. In terms of this three-person panel, and then Parliament, I understand, has to vote, that will be a majority or not, whether there's a wider investigation, then you need 2/3 to actually impeach the president. So it's virtually impossible. Do you agree with the Good Party? We were speaking to them yesterday about their nomination of Richard Calland, saying maybe the process itself is worth it if we get some more information from it?
Absolutely. You do need people who have got some degree of competence beyond political alliance to establish the facts, perhaps quicker than any of the investigating authorities. If any of them actually produces a report, then this exercise would be perhaps almost in futility. However, if none of them, if some of them are stuck in the processes of evidence gathering, and this group can establish that there's a prima facie case for the president to answer, then the Parliament would be empowered to take action.
All right, well, we await more details, and that vote expected to happen tonight. Thank you for sort of unravelling some of those political intricacies for us, Ongama Mtimka, political analyst.